Multiplication and division of rational functions. Made easy. Example number 1. We want to multiply these two rational functions here. So step 1 is to factor these. If you need help factoring trinomials, click on this link. I made a video on it. Let's start with the first one, x squared minus 11x plus 30. So the basic concept is you want to find two numbers that multiply to 30 when added give us negative 11. For this example, it's going to be x minus 5 and x minus 6. Factoring the bottom is the same concept. Two numbers that when multiplied give us negative 24, when added give us positive 5. That's going to be x plus 8 and x minus 3. Now we did the first rational function. Let's look at the second one. The numerator here is going to be x minus 3 and x plus 3. And then the last one here is going to be x minus 5 and x plus 3. So now step 1 is complete since we factored it all. Now what we have to do is cancel anything that's the same in the numerator as it is in the denominator. All we have to do is just look at the binomials in the numerator, and we're going to go down one by one and see if there's anything in either denominator that we can cancel with it. So let's look at this first one. We have x minus 5. As we can see, there's an x minus 5 in the other denominator. That means we can cancel these. So let's go ahead and cancel them. Now let's look at x minus 6. There are no other x minus 6 terms in the denominators. That means we can't cancel that with anything, so it's going to stay the same. Now let's look at x minus 3. We can see that there's an x minus 3 in the first denominator. That means we can go ahead and cancel those. Now we look at x plus 3. We can see right below it is another x plus 3, so we can go ahead and cancel those as well. Now all we do is write down whatever's left over. In the numerator, we see that there is an x minus 6, and in the denominator, we see that there's an x plus 8. Since there's no other terms to cancel, this is going to be our final answer. Example number 2. We want to multiply these two rational functions. Step 1 is to factor. Let's look at x squared minus 10x. We can see that both of those terms have an x, so we're going to factor out an x from them. Factoring out an x, what we'll have is x times x minus 10. Now let's look at the denominator there. We have x squared minus 2x minus 8. Factoring that, we'll have x minus 4 and x plus 2. Now let's look at the numerator in the second fraction. Factoring out the numerator, we'll have x minus 4 and x plus 4. In the denominator, what we'll have is x minus 10 and x plus 1. Now that our problem is fully factored, step 2 is to cancel any like terms. So we look at the numerator and we go down one by one at each term there. Let's start with the x. As we can see that there is no x terms by themselves in the denominator, that means that we can't cancel it and it's going to stay there. Next, we look at x minus 10. We can see that there's an x minus 10 in the other denominator. That means we can cancel those. Now, let's look at x minus 4. We see that there's another x minus 4 in the first denominator, so we can go ahead and cancel that. Now, we look at x plus 4. There's no other x plus 4 terms in the denominators. That means it's going to stay the same. Now that we've canceled everything, all we do is write down what's left. In the numerator, what we have is x times x plus 4. In the denominator, what we have is x plus 2 and x plus 1. Since there are no other terms for us to cancel, this is going to be our final answer. Example number 3. we want to divide these two rational functions. Now, multiplication and division of rational functions is exactly the same except for the first step. All we do is we actually just flip the second rational function and change the division sign into a multiplication sign. So, step 1, let's go ahead and do that by rewriting the problem. The first fraction here is going to stay the same. So we're going to have x squared plus 13x plus 42 over x squared plus x minus 20. Now the division sign is going to turn into a multiplication sign. And then the second fraction, we just flip it over. So that's going to become x squared minus 4x over x squared plus 8x plus 12. From here, it's exactly the same as the other problems that we've done. So let's go ahead and do that. Step 2 in this case is going to be to factor. So factoring the first numerator, we'll have x plus 7 and x plus 6. The bottom is going to be x plus 5 and x minus 4 multiplied by, and the numerator there, what we can do is factor out an x. We'll have x minus 4. And then the denominator, what we're going to have is x plus 6 and x plus 2. Now that we factored, step 3 is to cancel like terms. So we look at the numerator and we go down one by one. Starting with x plus 7, there's no other x plus 7 terms in the denominator, so that's going to stay the same. Now let's look at x plus 6. We can see that there's an x plus 6 in the other denominator, so we can go ahead and cancel those. Now we're looking at the x. There's no other x terms in the denominators, so that's going to stay the same. And now we look at x minus 4, and we can see that there's an x minus 4 in the other denominator. From here, all we do is write down what's left. We have x plus 7, and we have an x all over x plus 5 and x plus 2. There's no other terms for us to cancel, therefore this is going to be our final answer.